Hi everybody, welcome to the dungeon. My name is Robin and today is Flameworking 102.64 dots on dots on dots. So I am teaching dot placement in my class right now in Michigan. And now that's kind of in my head, I have also noticed that I frequently get comments about how dot placement is difficult. So I wanted to make this video about how I place dots and how I prepare the rod to drop a dot by not worrying about the size of the dots or the placement of the dots. So hopefully, if you're having issues with dots, I really hope that this helps you level up a little bit through practice. And with that said, I hope you're all doing safe and well out there. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time in the dungeon. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started with a black rod. This is going to be the base for the bead I'm going to build up. So let's just work on the footprint to start out with. So I'm going to get my rod nice and warm and heat up my mandrel. And I will go ahead and add kind of a longer footprint here. You know, I'll start out with one little footprint, and then I do warm it up so that when I add the second footprint, I'm not trapping a bubble in between. So when I warm it up, the glass that's on the mandrel is kind of leaning away from the spot that I'm going to add to. So I'm going to continue to do that a couple times down the rod. And then I'm going to go ahead and just very gently roll this out. I'm not trying to make it any longer. I just want to even out the top. And then sometimes I like to work my edges a little bit. So I will roll these edges at an angle just a little bit. And that will also set the edges for the bead itself. Okay, now I want to make this a little bit bigger, so I'm going to add a couple of wraps right in the center. And I wasn't right in the center, I was kind of the left of center here, so I'm going to heat on the right side to kind of pull what's on the left over to the right in the heat. It happens pretty quick, but I'm going to add another wrap here. And of course, I overcompensated this time and added it a little too much to the right, so I'm going to heat on the left side to draw the glass back into the center. And then here is my finished footprint bead. And the sides are kind of pulled in a little bit, but I'm not worried about that at all. So let's go ahead and start adding some dots. A couple of these segments are in real time. I'll let you know when we get there. But basically, when I'm starting a dot, and my camera angle is different this time. I hope you guys like this camera angle. What I'm doing is I'm working on the side of the flame. Okay, I'm getting a little bit more detailed. So not only is my flame slightly smaller, but now it is easier for me to heat up just the amount of glass I need on the end of the rod. Always working in what I call second position, which is the rod goes into the side of the flame. And when I'm done adding my dots all over the place, it doesn't matter where the dot is, I am just building up a background of dots. And what I like to do is I like to use my butter knife to spot heat each dot, because then not only can I press it down and find more control over the dot, but I can also very gently shift the dot in a slightly different direction if I need to. And then here, because the dots are now in a low profile around the bead, I can very gently roll it. I'm barely touching the marvering pad, just very gently rolling it on there to further lower the profile of the dots. And then when they're low enough, I'm just going to heat it all in. maybe press down those larger dots a little bit so it is a little bit more rounder. So I'm not, what am I trying to say here? I'm not just using the flame to coax all the glass down into a round. I am having to coax it all down myself and then give it a light heat. And all of those dots should round out and get into the surface of the glass for you. And I'm just giving this just a quick roll, just to lower the equator, make it not so round. All right, so here's the second color. Again, it doesn't matter where you put it or how big or small the dots are. We're just going to go right into the side of the flame, and I'm picking up the exact same, or I'm heating up the exact same amount of glass for the exact same size dot. Sometimes I will heat just a little bit in the flame for a small dot. And a lot of times I do notice people holding their color rod vertically, straight up and down. And that might work for some people. It does not work for me because the rod continuously gets hotter and hotter and hotter. And I feel like I'm losing control over how much glass is coming off of the rod. So once I have all these dots laid down, I'm going to go through the same process again, just by very gently heating each dot individually and pressing it down with my butter knife. And, when you press the glass down and it heats up, it rises again. So sometimes you have to do this pressing several times. And now that I'm getting a much lower profile on these dots, I can go ahead and heat everything up again. And because they're not completely incorporated into the background, I am slowly, this is in real time, I am very slowly, see how slow? And I'm barely touching the marvering pad. I'm just kind of creeping along, giving a little bit of more pressure to those higher placed dots. All right, speeding things up again. We're going to heat this up, round out the other side a little bit. And now that those dots look real soft in the glass, you could stop right there. It's not perfectly round yet, but we're not done. And the more you kind of cool it and then heat the surface, it will round out a little better for you, I hope. Okay, so here's an interesting color. This is kind of like the evil purple, but it's like a dark pink. And this part is done in real time. So I want you to see how slow I put these dots on. I get my heat from the side, wiggle my rod up and down, and then I kind of that glass kind of leans downward a little bit. And that's what I use to then press down and lift up, and look at also how close everything is together. The rod of glass, the bead, and the flame are all within like a couple inches of each other. So I'm not moving around or anything. Another thing I do is my pinky finger is curled around the end of my mandrel on the right side where I'm holding my rod as well. That really helps me out. So if you work in the middle of the mandrel and you're a little shaky, that might help you out. Okay, so going a little faster here again. Usually I am speeding things up in double time, sometimes triple time, because I do tend to work slowly. And that's really important to remember. So now I'm just adding smaller dots by getting a small amount of glass hot and laying it down a little quicker. Here's my last one. And now I'm going to go ahead and heat that up. Again, this pink color, I was hoping it would kind of devitrify out a little bit and craze around with the other colors in the background. It did a little bit, but not too much. And I'm going to do another video about blurry colors. Okay, so I'm just going to start heating again, like always, heating and pressing down. This is still just the background of this bead. soon I will be getting these dots to raise up a little bit. It just gives you a lot more practice when you are flattening the dots down. Once you start lifting the dots up and making peaks, you're kind of, I mean, you can do a lot, but you can only do so much. I like that you can practice with these dots and then just flatten and gently melt them in and then put more dots and more dots. You can continue adding and flattening these dots as much as you want. You might even want to add some transparency in there too. That would look really nice. Okay, so now I am just very slowly heating and getting things rounded. And when I am heating things up all the way, I am several inches outside of the flame, okay? And here, when I'm adding my some of my final dots, this is like a coral color. I'm not exactly sure what color it is. I will try to find out. It almost really looks on the orange side. It might be a coral peach. I'm not sure. Coral persimmon, maybe. So this time I want to leave these dots slightly raised up. And I am also heating them in halfway. I want to make sure they're melted in halfway because we're going to start out with some really low dots and then raise them up from there. And again, I'm just heating up what I need to on the side of the flame and then pushing and lifting that dot up or that glass up and then cutting the glass that you're lifting up right in the flame so you don't have that long string of glass coming off your dot. You need to be right under the flame when you lift up and remove the glass from the dot. Okay, so this is much more melted in, which looks good. So it's just bumpy right now. And let's go ahead and use this uranium yellow. And I thought I used some color combinations that I have never used before. And on this one, I am just going to add little dots on top of the raised up dots, just kind of building up as we go. I don't want to melt these in. I just want to keep them nice and raised up. So I am pushing and lifting up into the flame. Push down on the dot, lift up in the flame. It's the same thing every time. There are times when you really get used to what you're doing and what the glass is doing. It's a little bit easier to control it. So this is really just a fun practice piece. Okay, so this time I'm just going to very gently heat those in, not much. Again, I'm not looking to make these pointy peaks or anything. I want to make sure, though, that none of this pops off when I'm finished with it. So that means everything needs to be nice and smooth at the very end. Oh, that's looking pretty cool. Okay, so I'm just going to keep turning. And now I'm going to use a little bit of this periwinkle blue opaque. It is such a beautiful color. It reminds me of like a light violet. And I'm just going to add very small dots with this one. So I'm only grabbing a very small amount of heat from the side. And I'm not really waiting too long. Like I want to grab my heat and immediately place the dot down. Place the dot down, and then once I go back up into the heat, the flame reheats it enough to where you can drop it again. So you're lifting up and heating and dropping again every time. I really hope this makes sense, you guys. It's not always the easiest thing to explain what we do here. Okay, I think that this might be the last round. This I started out with this color. This is the opal yellow. And I'm just going to end up by adding a couple of higher dots, maybe some lower dots, just kind of wherever I want to. I'm just having fun and enjoying the process of putting dots down. And it's a process you want to enjoy. You don't want to struggle with it. So a bead like this gives you a lot of practice for that. And here, I think we're close to the end. All I'm going to do is make sure that everything is nice and smooth and secure to the bead. And that is it, you guys, for our everlasting gobstopper. I hope you all enjoy this one. and maybe give it a try if you're having issues with dot placement. I really hope this helps you out. And on that note, I hope to see you all next time in the dungeon.